Well, I'm sitting here in the gardens for our video bulletin on Friday, October the 2nd, and the noise of the city around me shows just how busy it is, despite the fact that yesterday the government made a new announcement about various restrictions coming in. Those restrictions don't actually make any material changes to our worship on Sunday mornings or our ability to greet each other, but only outside, but we must greet and not mingle. Now, when Jesus was walking with the disciples through a cornfield and his disciples tore the heads off the corn, they didn't have to reckon with flour ladies telling them off. They only had the Pharisees. But this is a precursor to what I'll say later about our harvest festival. However, the work of the church goes on, and we're involved in so many things at the moment, including setting up a city centre vocations group for those exploring ordination and other forms of licensed ministry. We're involved in the unveiling of a new commemoration stone here tomorrow in the gardens, and other work connected with the Black Lives Matter movement. We've got a number of other initiatives coming up over the next few weeks, and of course we've got our confirmation classes starting, which we're thinking, in the light of yesterday's announcement, will probably be online by Zoom. But that's not a problem, because we've got used to making our church life work in a variety of different ways. Now, back to harvest, because a harvest festival is sometimes challenging in the city, because it feels as if we haven't got the wheat around us, and we haven't got the cornfields in which to pluck the heads off the crops. But we can talk about our own contribution to God's world and the way that we steward his creation. So we've got a visiting speaker on Sunday, Annie Merry from the charity Faith for Change, which works with Christian engagement with environmental matters, and we invite you to bring harvest offerings. Our harvest offerings are invited for the Sisters of Charity, and they particularly want tea and coffee and UHT milk, or of course straightforward donations of all sorts for the FoodBank. Now, for those of you who have contact with the church office during the week, you will know that Jean is the person at the end of the phone, and Jean has successfully run the parish for well over 20 years. And in our Meet the Congregation slot this week, Father Fergus has been talking to someone who has gently presided over many rectors.
Hello, this week for our Meet the Congregation slot, I'm with a very special person who many of you will have heard of, many of you have spoken to, but perhaps you might not have met, because this is Jean, who is she is the powerhouse of St Nick's, really. Everything happens because of her. Forget the rector, it's Jean who you really need to contact if you need to know stuff. So, Jean, hello, thank you for being with us. Tell us about how you came to St Nick's, your opening time here.
Okay. I'd recently been made redundant from the Royal St Wales. My job when I was there was going to Manchester, and at the time my two children were young, so I didn't really want a job outside the city. So I took a couple of months off, and then in the Liverpool Daily Post and Echo there was a job vacancy, little lad asking for a part-time secretary, age stipulated.
Stipulated. We won't say what age was stipulated.
Very politically incorrect, but there you go. And the hours, so they'd suit me. But it didn't say where it was for, just a PO box number. So I sent my application in, and as you've seen, it consisted of Dear Sir. I looked, in the paper, and
an interview then?
Yeah, if I granted an interview, I'd send a CV, sort of thing. Which I did. I could have been applying to anything, some really sordid place. I really didn't, but took a chance. Anyway,
I was
1997. That was
2 years ago.
Yes, that was in the November.
Nick Frayling was.
Nick Frayling was the rector. Maureen Trapnell, a lot of you may remember or may not remember. She was the secretary there. And I got this letter, and I didn't know what it was, it was just due it. And to my surprise, it was signed by the rector of Liverpool, Nicholas Frayling, Canon Nicholas Frayling. asking if I'd like to come in for an interview. So I came in for the interview, and it was asked, what my interests were and everything. You had to do shorthand and everything at the time, so I could do all that. And then that was in November, and then come December, just before Christmas, the phone rang, and it was Nick offering me the job, which was a lovely Christmas present.
Absolutely.
Didn't realise I'd be here so many years after.
What does your job involve, or is it easy to say what doesn't it involve?
It sort of evolves. It's evolved from just doing straightforward secretarial work. But as things have changed and different rectors and progress, it's just changed so much. I would hate to have to write a job description
for what you do now. Well, those of you who know Jean will know that she does an awful amount, everything from wedding bookings to we've cleared up various accidents in church together, I think. So it's everything across the whole book things, and St Nick's really couldn't operate without us. So it's lovely for you, members of the congregation and the wider city of Liverpool, to meet the beating heart of St Nick's today. Jean, thank you so much for speaking to us. Thank you.
Well, I really can't pay too much tribute to how Jean has run the parish for the last 20 plus years and the way that she's looked after us all. And I learnt more from her about living in Liverpool and the city region than from anything else when we moved here a few years ago. Well, I mentioned earlier that yesterday the government made a further announcement about restrictions in Liverpool and Merseyside, and I'd like to say a few more words about that and whether that affects us and how it might affect our worship on Sunday. Nothing has changed in the rules for public worship, and so although there are restrictions on households, different households meeting inside, that does not apply to public worship on the basis that we're not meant to be meeting, we're meant to be saying our prayers and on our knees or something like that. So church isn't a place where we should be socialising inside at the moment, and you'll notice in the rules that we're given that actually when we step outside there is some flexibility for different households encountering each other. Now, we've still got to be careful about distancing. We should not be mingling, but we can greet each other in a distanced and masked way. So please do continue as you have been, but taking particular care to stay safe, to stay distanced, and to obey those rules from the government about mixing and mingling with other households when you're indoors. But other than that, as I also said earlier, we've got our Harvest Festival, so please do bring along some harvest offerings. Our Parish Eucharist is at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, either live or, of course, on the live stream on YouTube. And I hope that you can join us in one way or the other. And before then, have a very good weekend.